All right. Hi. Let me just go live on Instagram. Uh, oh, wait. Let me just do one quick thing. So, hi, beautiful people. For people watching me on the replay, thank you so much for watching me. I appreciate you. One second. My name is Celeste. I'm a therapist from Boston, and I come on these lives to record my podcast and give people an opportunity to be a part of it as I'm recording. Hey, what's up, West? And it allows people to ask questions, chime in, give commentary. But what I do is, oh, no audio. Let me see. What am I doing wrong? Hold on. Let me see. Settings, audio. Hello, hello. Can you hear me now? No audio on Instagram. Um, I wonder why. That sucks. Let me try to get off my mic and see if that works. Can't hear me? Okay, hold on. Oh, you have audio? Okay. Wes, that's just you. You need, oh, okay. I'm over here troubleshooting. Man. It's good here. Okay. YouTube is good. All right. I'm gonna keep going. Okay, cool. So you blame me? Of course you're gonna blame me. No accountability, right? I could go into a whole topic about that, but I'm not because I'll digress. Um my name is Celeste. I'm a therapist from Boston, and I come on Wednesdays, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, to talk about things that people go through. And in my stories on Instagram, uh, I share a lot, and I let people pick topics. And this came in number one, forgiveness. We're going to talk about forgiveness today. But if you don't know, the podcast episodes stream on all social media platforms, but also on audio podcasts. So last week we talked about The Body Keeps the Score, and that's streaming now. And the week prior to that, we talked about grieving the loss of the life you thought you'd have. So that was pretty powerful. Those are all streaming on all podcasting platforms. So if you are an audio listener, then you can check those episodes out. But today we're talking about forgiveness. Forgiveness is a subject that a lot of people struggle with. And before I start talking about that, I just want people to know that I'm not telling you you have to forgive, because I've seen a lot of posting where people, for them, the idea, the concept doesn't work. It doesn't work for them, and that's fine. So that means that this episode is 100% not for you. But these are for people that feel that they've allowed a lot of a huge subject. I know they've allowed a lot of their stuff from the past, and it's still affecting them today. So my goal is to kind of give you another idea or mindset around like forgiveness and kind of like what that looks like. And I'm a very visual learner, so I always have slides when I do this podcast. So when I think about what forgiveness is, it says it's for people that are listening, it's a conscious decision to let go of negative feelings such as anger, resentment, and hostility towards someone who has harmed you. It's not just about accepting what's happened or stop being angry, but rather a voluntary change in your feelings and attitudes and behaviors. So when I think about the anger, resentment, and hostility that comes up for people, it's a hard way to live life, right? Things could have happened 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. And if you're finding yourself feeling so consumed by it, and not letting it go, that's really hard. And I want you to think about why forgiveness is important, because I'm talking about this for a reason. I've been a therapist for a really long time. I've worked with people for a long time. I've had to forgive. I've held on to things. So I've realized the power in it. And again, if you are somebody that doesn't believe in it, this message isn't for you, clearly. But some of the reasons why it's important to work on forgiveness: forgiving people can help you heal emotionally and move on from past hurts. So when you're holding on to all this anger and resentment and other negative emotions, it can lead to stress, anxiety, and other physical health problems, right? Forgiveness can help release those negative emotions and allow you to feel more at peace. And for people listening, I got this from truemyidentity.com, a blog post. When you are holding on to stuff, so when you think about some of the physical stuff you go through or people go through, a lot of times we only equate it to like medical, or like, oh, we got diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. We'll name those things, but we'll look at it only physically, right? We don't recognize how some of the baggage that we're carrying is sitting in our heart, is sitting in our bloodstreams, is creating a lot of medical stuff from the fact that we're holding on. And when you think about like, well, why should I forgive? I really want you to think about like how when you work on releasing that stuff, it'll probably help some of the physical stuff that you have going on dismantle. Unforgiveness can actually turn into physical. Yes, yeah. Literally, and I don't think people realize that how when you hold on to things, like physically, you can feel it. And if you're not in tune with your body, you don't even recognize that it's happening. And you're right, Miss Genty, it's hard to forgive. And that's why, like, as I'm talking about this, it's not an overnight fix. It's a thing where, if you listen to me or my podcast or anything I talk about, I say the mind believes what you tell it, and it focuses on the things that's in your head, right? So if in your mind, like for instance, you're saying it's hard to forgive, which I agree, in your mind, if you start focusing on, I want to work on releasing this, your mind's going to help you find ways to release it. If in your mind you stay, I can't believe this happened, I can't believe they did this to me, your mind's going to keep placing you in a victim space. Um, Hey, Crystal, I'm so glad you're here. So that's why it's important when you are able to forgive, it can help release a lot of the ailments that you are holding on to. But why is it so challenging, right? Because as you said, it's really challenging. For one, fear of getting hurt again, fear of feeling weak or foolish, or fear of intimacy from past trauma or emotional wounds, right? Sometimes, like, holding on to this has been part of your identity. If I forgive, does that mean that I'm weak? No, it doesn't mean that you're weak, right? Like, I need to hold on to this. Sometimes it's like a badge, right? Anger, you're still feeling anger and wanting to get even. I get it 100%. Like wanted people to feel what you felt, wanted that person to feel what you felt. It makes sense. You're human. Like, that's a rational mindset. I'm not saying that's irrational to feel that way. My point in talking about this is saying, like, continuing to stay in that space, it harms you, not the other person. Self-blame, blaming yourself for what happened, lack of remorse. This is a big one too. If the person who hurt you may not show remorse, that's really hard, because it feels like some people will be like, oh, but they're walking around like as if everything's okay. Or they seem like they're happy, especially if you still see them or you follow them on social media, right? And so you're looking at their highlighted reels and you're comparing it to all the pain you're feeling inside. And I just think about how you continue to harm yourself when you're looking for someone else to take the responsibility of where you're at. So what happened wasn't your fault, right? But when it comes to where you are in healing, it's kind of like you're looking for that person to heal you. I want to share this like 2-minute clip from Will Smith. I seen this a few years ago, and I always share it with people when I'm talking about fault and responsibility. And I think it's gonna really help you kind of reframe some things. And how do you start and where to begin? Yes. Yes, they are walking around like they did nothing. Yes. So I hear you, right? And I understand. I have these conversations daily, so I completely understand where your mind goes. And I'm not saying that that person is happy. I'm saying you don't know what is really going on in that person's world, because again, you're only looking at the highlighted reel. So I want to share this. I want to share this clip from Will Smith, um, really quick. So let me just make sure the volume's up.
I was just having a debate with a friend of mine, and and we got stuck on the difference between fault and responsibility. She kept talking about how something was somebody's fault, it's somebody's fault. And I was like, it don't matter whose fault it is that something is broken if it's your responsibility to fix it. For example, it's not somebody's fault if their father was an abusive alcoholic, but it's for damn sure their responsibility to figure out how they're going to deal with those traumas and try to make a life out of it. It's not your fault if your partner cheated and ruined your marriage, but it is for damn sure your responsibility to figure out how to take that pain and how to overcome that and build a happy life for yourself. Fault and responsibility do not go together. It sucks, but they don't. When something is somebody's fault, we want them to suffer. We want them punished. We want them to pay. And we want it to be their responsibility to fix it. But that's not how it works, especially when it's your heart. Your heart, your life, your happiness is your responsibility and your responsibility alone. As long as we're pointing the finger and stuck in whose fault something is, we're jammed and trapped into victim mode. When you're in victim mode, you are stuck in suffering. The road to power is in taking responsibility. Your heart, your life, your happiness is your responsibility and your responsibility alone.
So, when you hear that, what he's saying around the fault and responsibility, uh, I want to be clear that when you are not choosing to forgive that person, what's happening with your psyche a lot of times is that you start to put yourself in a victim mode. And so, not just with that person or that situation, you're going to find yourself feeling like a victim in a lot of situations. You're going to find yourself feeling powerless because your mind is framing your body and everything around you as if you're a victim, when there's moments and situations where you're able to take responsibility. But it's hard for you to see that because your mind is so hyper focused on you being a victim. There are so many people that were victims that were neglected. So many things have happened, especially before you turn 18. And so your psyche was built around that trauma. And you could be 20, 30, 40, 50 years old. Something happens that's unfortunately similar to what happened in the past. And what happens is your mind won't show you your responsibility. Your mind won't show you how you can change the way you are in that person's life. Your mind will keep you in the victim mentality, and you'll find yourself feeling like you're on a roller coaster wheel. And you'll find yourself always feeling down or always feeling like things are happening to you. That's a really hard way to live life. And so, as you're like thinking about this idea of forgiveness and you find yourself holding on to a lot of things, I want you to understand the fact that you're holding on to all of these things, it's causing you to look at life and look at people and look at situations in a way where you are not the person in power. And so, if you want to change that, this is an area to work on. Now, another reason why we struggle with forgiveness, if you dwell on hurtful events or situation, grudges filled with resentment and hostility can take root. If you allow negative feelings to crowd out positive feelings, you might find yourself swallowed by bitterness or a sense of injustice. Some people are naturally more forgiving. So if you're not releasing the stuff that's happened, what's happening is like the root of your foundation is turning into a victim kind of mentality. Now, how to practice forgiveness, right? That was a question somebody had. And again, it's a daily practice, and I want you to be mindful that it's not an overnight thing, and that's okay. But when you're thinking about like, how can I practice forgiveness? One is acknowledging the situation and naming your feelings and practicing self compassion. A lot of times we're not naming our feelings. And when I talk about emotions, I'm going to just pull up this emotion chart. This is an emotion chart. You can Google emotion wheels. This is from Beam. It's a Black organization that has these emotions on a wheel. If you Google feelings wheel, you'll find different variations of feelings wheel. we only know angry or happy, right? Our emotions are so complex. And if you have better language to talk about, like, you know what? I feel frustrated by what happened, or I feel jealous by X, Y, and Z. If you're actually naming these things and getting more specific with yourself, what you're allowing to happen is that you're allowing for your system to have more clarity on what's going on. I'll say, like, if I start bleeding, I always use this example. If I start bleeding and my and it is just like blood just starts coming, I'm going to be nervous because I don't know what's going on. If I got a paper cut, if I cut myself by accident and then I start bleeding, yeah, it hurts, the pain is there, but I'm not freaking out because I know what's going on. When it comes to our emotions, because we haven't been taught how to work through them or how to work on them, what happens is all of us are feeling all these emotions, we're getting triggered, and we're responding off of that, right? So when you're able to name what you're feeling, name what happened, it releases it from you. If you're not naming that you feel jealous, if you're not naming that you feel frustrated, if you're not naming these things, you're going to allow those emotions to have power over you, and that you're not being fair to yourself. Um, so letting it out is important. Again, holding on to things keeps you in a space of feeling like you're in pain all the time. Establishing clear boundaries. Sometimes some of the relationships around healing and forgiveness are people that you still have to work with, or maybe people you still have to see at family functions, or a parent or a child, right? And so it would be some, for some situations you could just be like, I'm all set with that person, I never want to see them again. And some situations, unfortunately, you have to still be in the same space with them. And so in those moments, you have to be mindful of establishing boundaries with that person. The boundaries are to protect you, and boundaries are really hard to do, but they're important. And so really being mindful, what's my boundary with this person? What am I going to allow and not allow? Because I'm no longer a victim, right? I have power over my situation. Leaning into empathy, if it's appropriate, right? Communicate to create closure if that's possible. And seeking support is always a great part. And then finding the lesson and reclaiming your power. And so when I talked about reclaiming your power, where you have power over your situation. But when I say finding the lesson in it, what does that mean? Forgiving is empowering. It all allows you to release the power the offender holds over you, emotions, enabling you to regain control over your feelings in your life. So by forgiving, you're choosing peace over pain, right? When I think about choosing peace over pain, some people think you got to have the last word, or if they say this, I'm going to say that, right? They're talking about me, I'm going to talk about them. Why engage in that energy? Energy is transferable. I don't think people realize this. The way you engage, or the way you feel like you have to win, right? So I'm holding on to this because it's really messed up what happened, and they shouldn't have did it. And you're talking about it. Years are going by. You're still talking about it. But also what's happening is that you're finding yourself in stagnation. So when you're not choosing to forgive or let things go, you see the growth over stagnation. You can either grow from it, or you can stay in the same place. And also, you can free yourself from resentment. Being resentful doesn't feel good. It ages you, right? It creates this thing in you where not only like physically it ages you, but inside it ages you, because you're so constricted. If you're holding on to all this resentment and pain, how do you allow positivity in? If you're holding on to all this darkness and pain, how in the world do you allow the light in? How do you see the beauty in life? You don't see it. Everything feels dark. And then when the dark things happen and come, it just impacts you more. Your relationships, not forget the person that harmed you, your relationships with other people are going to suffer, because you're never going to see your role in the situation. You're always going to find yourself feeling like a victim. Um, I want to show one more clip, right? Because sometimes analogies are helpful for us to, well, I know for me, and I know if I'm not the only one, but I have a hard time conceptualizing things sometimes when I first learn it. And analogies really help me. I'll be like, okay, break it down like this. And it really helps me. Like, I'm a slower learner. People would never know, but it takes me a while to grasp in new information. My friend Sean Marshall, I'm gonna share a clip where he gave this analogy. And then after that clip, I want to just talk about the impact of forgiveness, like what it will do for you, because I think it's powerful. Like I'm asking you to do these things. And I think that when things are hard to do, if you keep the goal in mind, it helps you do it, right? If you want to work on losing weight because you're healthy, you don't want to be on medication, when it's hard to get up and go take a walk, if you can think about, I'm doing this because I want to be able to like move better, I want to be there for my grandchildren or my child, whatever it is, you hold that goal in mind, it keeps you in a position to keep pushing forward. So if you understand, like, maybe you need to reframe your idea on what forgiveness is, or maybe I need to think about, like, me forgiving this person or the thing that happened is going to allow me to be free, it's going to allow me to experience life differently. Maybe that will allow me to keep pushing forward even when it feels hard. So I'm going to share this clip really quick. Present, share screen. Okay. All right, we're going to watch this clip by Sean Marshall. Share. All right. Where is it? Oh, okay. All right, you guys are ready? Let me just.
Years old, I remember crossing the street to get to the ice cream truck. Remember those? And there was a limousine coming down the street. And I didn't see the limousine. I was trying to get to the ice cream truck. I got hit by the limousine. I lay there on the ground, mostly shocked by what was happening. I didn't get hit that hard. But the limousine driver immediately got out of the car, came over to check on me, offered to take me and my mother to the hospital, sat there in the emergency room while I was evaluated, waited until I was checked out and sent home, took us back home and offered to do anything he possibly could to make sure that I was okay. The blessing of that situation is that the person who hurt me took responsibility and walked with me to make sure that I was okay. The reality is life doesn't always go that way. Many of us have been hurt by people who kept it moving. And you know what? We still are laying in the middle of the street. We're still stuck wherever we got hit, wherever we got hurt, waiting for the person who hurt us to come back and help us heal. I got a question for you. What if they're not coming? What if the person who hurt you, what if the person who harmed you isn't coming back to help you? So many times we wait for people to come and apologize, for them to come and repent, and for them to come and help take responsibility for the ways in which they hurt us. But there are people who've hurt us who don't even know that they've hurt us. There are people who have hurt us who they don't have the capacity to take responsibility for the ways in which they hurt us. Guess what? I got some tough news for you. Even if they don't take responsibility for hurting you, you still have to take responsibility for healing you. When I was
All right. So the analogy, I thought it was powerful. He got hit by a limousine and the limousine driver stayed with them and made sure they were okay. You use that analogy, it wasn't his fault he got hit by the limousine, right? The limousine driver could have drove off. Does he just sit there and wait for somebody to come save him? If somebody comes and he says, no, I want the limousine driver because they're the one who harmed me. Literally, that's what happens when you are in the same space. You're stuck and you're missing out on life when that happens. And so the last slide I want to share is the impact of forgiveness. Like, how is it going to help me if I work through this and start like kind of reframing the way I'm looking at it? So mental health. Forgiveness can help reduce anxiety, depression, and symptoms of trauma and improve your self-esteem. It can also help you feel more satisfied with your life, less hostile and angry. A lot of the anger and hostility that you may always find yourself feeling. There's people that, people have come to me for anger management, or people say I'm an angry person. Excuse me. And as I work with them, I'm like, they're a hurt person, right? The anger and the hostility, they're masking it. The kindness and the person that they are is being masked by all the hostility and anger because they've been hurt. And so every relationship they have, not just intimate, but friendships, family, there's always this anger undertone or hostility that is coming out because there's this mindset for your system. Your system is doing what it's designed to do. I've been hurt in the past. And so let me put up my guard because you're going to hurt me again. That's what my mind tells me. But my mind is designed to help me with life, but I have to work on navigating it. And if I'm not telling my mind that this is not the same situation, if I'm not releasing what's happening, all of my relationships are going to struggle. I'm going to find myself always feeling angry, always feeling hostile. So the hostility and angry, being angry can improve your relationships, can improve stress is a killer. I don't know if people know this. It's not by accident. If you look at zip codes in a lower socioeconomic status, meaning people that don't have a lot of money, health concerns, the death rate is lower. I mean, is your age when you pass away is lower than people in a higher socioeconomic status. The stress of how am I going to pay my bills, the stress of being Black in America, especially for Black men, right? Or Black in the workplace, like the stress really ages you. It keeps your system in high alert. And working on releasing things can allow for your stress to be really dismantled. So forgiveness can help relieve stress. A study found that increased forgiveness was associated with decreased stress. And then the biggest one is for physical health, right? Lower blood pressure, stronger immune system, improved heart health. Those are just some of the ways that if you can work on forgiveness, you can find yourself feeling different overall. So I hope this was helpful. Understand that, whether we're talking about today's topic or any topic, there may be some things I talk about that doesn't sit with you, or like you're like, nah, I'm all set with that. That's totally fine. I'm not here to, my message isn't for everyone. And but this is for someone, right? I know that. And the reason why like the messages and the things that I talk about always hits home is because I've been doing this work for over 20 years. I work with people all social economic status, race. And the reality is like, regardless of where we come from or our money situation, the issues and the things that we need to heal and to have peace are the same. Like I find myself saying things in different ways, but the theme of it is the same. And so a lot of the topics that I talk about is because a lot of people are struggling in the same way. This was amazing. I need to hear this. Yes, I'm glad it was helpful. So understand forgiveness takes time. Don't beat yourself up. Have compassion with yourself. Whether we're talking about forgiveness or any other subject, be mindful that if you put your mind to something, it's not like people say, oh, I manifested it. When you put your mind to something, your mind is going to help you get the answers, right? I'm starting a group practice, never had people working under me before, and it feels scary. And if I sat in the fear, which is true, like things cannot work out, that's true. If I sit in that, my mind is going to keep showing me ways that it's not going to work out. But if I say, okay, it may not work out, but then we never explore the other side. Like we'll say like, what if this doesn't work out? And then we sit and it's a period. We never say comma, but what if it does, right? And so for me, with anything that I do, what if it does is the thing that I dwell on. And so because I'm dwelling on it, my mind, I can control where my mind goes. Because I'm dwelling on it, my mind is showing me the possibilities. And so that's so important to understand. Hey, LaDonna. All right. Bye, Crystal. Hey, Carolyn. Hey, Chad. So I will see you guys next Wednesday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this episode will be streaming on all podcasting platforms starting next week. If you like what you hear and you want to hear other episodes, if you go to celestetherapist.com, you can find other episodes. And I'm on YouTube if you're not watching me on YouTube. You can find me on YouTube and you can find a lot of these episodes on YouTube. Thank you so much.